what needs to happen and how do you transform it, the very first thing to do is you break it down to the fundamentals. Actually, sports is very similar to it. When a company or in a team starts to be dysfunctional or is not working, there's a lot of saying, oh, let's just get back to fundamentals. Sometimes business model is one. Sometimes just the wind is knocked out of people. That's just you have people that just the wind is knocked out of them. They're not able to generate anything positive. There's something of the spirit of the company sort of dies down.
So would you say you're able to theoretically rebuild and transform a company that is a broken spirit? And how do you define a broken spirit within a company?
That's a good question. They don't care or they don't believe. That's probably going to be a broken spirit to me.
Welcome to the Grow and Learn podcast, your go-to source for expertise and insights on a variety of topics: business growth, leadership, technology, personal and business finance, and more. We've curated a vast network of business experts ready to address your company's most pressing challenges. From corporate growth strategy to leadership, marketing strategy, sales strategy, branding, customer relations, technology, AI, IT security, and beyond, we connect you to the best experts for your needs. Reach out to us for more information or schedule a call at grownlearn.org to explore how we can support you. We're speaking about year-end planning, what is to be considered in the previous year, how to plan ahead so that you're not overwhelmed. I'm speaking to Ori Elraviv. Very interesting story. We're going to hear about his professional and life journey as well. Welcome, Ori.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Ori, you're right now based in New Jersey, but you have a very interesting professional career. You've been all around the world. Your career journey starts somewhere in China. Before we talk about year-end planning, and especially for smaller companies, because this is where you're a pro in transforming SMEs, tell us how you got to this expertise. What was your journey?
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been around quite a bit. I started. I'm from Israel, so I started, early in my career there. But right after university, after we got married, we moved over to China, and the reason mainly to do it is because I needed to get myself out of the resume pile, and that's why we made a move. I studied Chinese and business back then, and we moved over there. I had a scholarship to study in Tsinghua, and we ended up going and staying for 6 years. And China is an amazing place, and this is where I met at the middle of, after about 3 years, I met a person who was very much influential in my career, a really amazing person named Rich Robinson. He played basketball with me, and at one point when I was thinking about what I do next, he came to me with the idea that we would open a company together, that I would be the CEO. He would just help with business development. That would be something around mobile porting and QA. And when I said that I have no technical expertise, I know nothing about games, he said, don't worry, after 3 months, you would know more than anyone. And that's probably one of the sentences that I would carry always. That means that you step into something and you would do fine. Like, just have the character to it, you would do it well. And we started with nothing and ended up with a 90 people kind of company. We work with Electronic Arts, with Disney, with THQ Wireless. It was pretty much a wild ride over there. That's where my career really started.
Wow, that's impressive. And that's so much contradicting to the expected profile of a new CEO. Or you mentioned, I'm not a 100X person, a typical CXO that a PE company would hire to run a business. So you have a completely different way of viewing company management. How is it different than what is like a normality?
I think there is a certain kind of approach to it. There are very different type of leaders, and there is no right and wrong for a leader. There's just different types of them. And I particularly fit more small to medium size. That is because I like being involved. and I have my hands into everything. It doesn't mean I'm not a micromanager. I'm quite the opposite. I'm very macro, but I like to have my hands into everything. And I'd like to think of myself as having very little ego. I'm not coming into places and ripping them apart, and I'm not trying to force myself into situations. And in that sense, I also think of myself. I often refer to myself as the least important person inside of the company. This is not to say that I don't have important kind of things, because I do. I'm supposed to glue everything together, and I'm supposed to kind of the path. But at the end of the day, if the people that I work with are not growing and are not amazing in what they do, there's really nothing that I can do to change that. Like, so that is why the role that I have is honestly allowing people to be who they are, to realize their potential, to realize their growth. It is really not about me making it happen. It's more about everyone else.
Mhm. Your career continued in a fascinating way afterwards as well. If you can quickly
Sure.
walk us through what happened after China.
So after China, I jumped more into the ad tech world, the ad network, which is a fascinating world in its own right. There's a lot of various shades of gray in that industry. And honestly, probably when you move into various types, you understand how there's various shades of gray in terms of business and in many areas. Um, but from that, I helped them somewhat with China. I also took as an operations, but very quickly after that, I think about 6 months, I took over a company that called Volo MP that sat in Belgrade. It is a very small email marketing company that had the software for high volume email marketing. I took over that as a CEO. They were acquired a few years before that, but they were losing money at some point. So I was asked kind of to go and take over and make sense of what's going on there. So I work with really a great team in Belgrade, and we transformed the business. We hired someone in the US to help us with sales. We changed the business model, and so that was great. And then
Were you
later on,
physically in Belgrade then? Did you live in Serbia or did you do it remotely?
no, I did it remotely. I visited every couple of months, but the team was there, and we also had a person also in US. So in many ways, it's not only that I visited and I lived in China, and I lived obviously in Israel, and then at some point I moved and relocated to the US for the past 8 years. But I worked with across cultures and across people from various places, which also came to one of the most fundamental things that I have, where people like businesses are fundamentally very, very much alike. That means there are fundamental things within people that I believe are very similar. And it's true that cultures somewhat differ from one another. And that would mean that people will somehow behave differently. But I believe this is a lot of it is mostly from the outside. Like it's the outside shell that is really different. The core is similar.
I
And
have similar observations actually.
And in that regards, every time that you speak with people, if you really connect with them on their internal, that's where you get them. Like everybody is curious. Everybody is, wants to go ahead in life. Everybody wants to be able to progress, to do well. And I think if you give them the opportunity, they will do it. So it is a mistake to just go on the outside, on the shell of people. You just really have to touch them inside.
Yeah. And when we talked a little bit about business planning, you said you like to simplify things. And in your speaker profile, there was also the information, and I'm kind of curious about this as well, that you see business in a simplify. It's not simple, but clearly you find clear and simple rules and simple methods in which you can turn them around after so many experiences with different businesses.
Right.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
yeah, similar to people, I view all businesses as having core fundamentals. And I'm very much of a fundamental person. I like going to the basics. I like to, every time when I go into a new business, the first thing that I would start to look is obviously I would start to look at the financials and the P&L. I need to understand the financials of it. Then I need to start to understand what operates the business. All businesses are very simple in their essence. You eventually need to be able to bring, revenue. It costs you somewhat to bring that revenue. It costs you somewhat to operate it. In many ways, that's kind of it, right? And to bring that revenue, you need to bring something in. You need to convert it. I know it sounds a little more simple than what it is, but if you really think about it, it really is. And there are places where there are really complicated formulas or, taking things to the moon or things that are, let's just say, the beyond complication. But I mean, the majority of them operate very, very similar. And if you want to be able to look at a business and see, what needs to happen and how do you transform it, the very first thing to do is you break it down to the fundamentals. Actually, sports is very similar to it. When a company or in a team starts to be dysfunctional or is not working, there's a lot of saying, oh, let's just get back to fundamentals, right? It's always, let's get back to the fundamentals of the sports. And to me, a company is very much the same. So sometimes you would go to the fundamentals and you would go and look at the business model. And that was true also with the email marketing company, for example. The business model was not good. It was not good to that point. It had a business model where they had some sort of lifetime kind of licenses. But when you sell lifetime licenses, on one hand, you get a big chunk of money one time, but then that's it. So there's a problem with the way that you operate the business after. You have to start to break it down to something else. Sometimes business model is one. Sometimes just the wind is knocked out of people. That's just, you have people that just the wind is knocked out of them. They're not able to generate anything positive. There's something of the spirit of the company sort of dies down, or I don't know, sometimes leadership is sort of broken down. There are lots of different factors of what happens in a business. Let's get down to the fundamentals and understand. We can then build on from there.
So would you say you're able to theoretically rebuild and transform a company that is a broken spirit? And how do you define a broken spirit within a company?
That's a good question. I think a broken spirit is when people either don't care, don't believe, or just I think those are the two things. They don't care or they don't believe. That's probably going to be a broken spirit to me.
Another question, if you allow me to dig a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Would it be because of simply bad hiring or as a result of the operations of the company?
Yeah. Okay, I would distinguish between hiring and operations of the company. Okay, those are two different things. Hiring is very, very interesting. It's very, very hard to hire the right people. And it's very hard to define what is the right people. So I think the hiring part has to do with, you want to be, in my view, and the way that I would hire is culture first. Not ability first, culture first. The reason is because you want people to sort of have the same mindset that you want to be having in the company. Otherwise, over time, they're going to be miserable. They're not going to have it. They're not going to fit. Now, it doesn't matter that it doesn't mean their culture is bad. It just means they're different. You want to have people that would support the type of things that you want to do. Then, of course, you want to be able to have some abilities, and even there are various different approaches. Some people like to go raw and develop. Some people like to have experience and be less involved. I can't tell you which one is better.
Yeah.
When it comes to the operational kind of part, first of all, we have to recognize that people get bored or get enough of something in over time. And there are different positions that would do it. Some would burn out quicker than others, depending on the position. There are some times that I thought that there's some sort of a 2, 3 year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something that you need to take into consideration, okay, inside of a company. You either are able to regenerate people and give them something else to rejuvenate them and to get them to the next challenge, or you just need to be able to let people go. And sometimes people think that letting people go is really bad and you're firing people. But honestly, a person that is not happy in the company is as miserable as the company itself.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some situations which are lose-lose, and knowing when to just move on is important. And also moving on is not shouldn't be considered as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
No. And if you treat it like that, that's when it becomes, but it shouldn't be.
Mm. That's a very, very interesting viewpoint. In the company in China that you first built up to 90 people, personnel, what specific strategies or programs did you introduce to circumvent this burnout or at a certain position?
A good question, because I think that's the one company where I probably learned a lot from mistakes that I did. Um, Although, you know what, I made a ton of mistakes almost in every place that I've done. I'm not sure this is the best company that I would probably learn from.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I've learned inside of the company there is that it's very easy to hire.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
any company, like I don't want to talk to the people that own SMEs out there and then tell you that I understand making a company that is healthy and profitable is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And people miscalculate how hard it really is and
Mm-hmm.
how daunting it is, how hard it is to kind of progress. Sometimes you feel like you're on a mountain and that mountain just never ends.
Mm-hmm.
So this is hard, and I think it's a good idea to recognize how hard it is.
Yeah.
But then I realize how easy it is to hire people, but how not easy it is to retain and make it a place that all of them can actually, thrive in.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay, but we were never made it really big. We also back then, we're the Chinese mentality of who we had is a little bit of a different kind of mentality. We tried. There were a few people that were, let's just say, selected. That's a really bad way of putting it, but there were people that were closer to me. I think the people that get close to me are the people that I feel have something burning inside of them, and that's when I get intrigued and I like working with them. Um, and they also give you back quite a lot, right? Like I always say that as a leader, I try to inspire people, but I'm also actively looking for people that will inspire me back.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much because of I learned that my energy just dies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
It's a
really
natural human exchange, of course.
yeah, hard for me to rejuvenate my own energy
Yeah.
over time. And I
Mm-hmm.
found that people are doing it. That's why what inspires is like people inspire me, and
Yeah.
my team inspires me,
Mm-hmm.
to move on every day, almost like fight for all of us. So
Yeah. Let's jump quickly to what you're doing now. You're a CEO or a COO of a media company,
yeah,
media feed.
I've been in the media field for a while now. And Media Feed is also a fascinating kind of company in its own right, as we're going about transforming, want to be able to transform the way that brands are interacting with people. We believe in win-win situations, and that means we really want brands to think of marketing and marketing channels as a way to create things that would win with their people, with their audience, with their clients, with their prospective kind of clients. And one of the ways that we think about it is through content. There's probably, if brands would really think about it hard, there's going to be other ways to create win-win situations between them and customers. We believe content is one of them, and that means that brands would create content that people would consume and benefit from.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
way back then would basically be connection. It's going to be an authentic kind of connection. Brands will be able to then introduce new things that they have, the new collections that they have, in many ways, all sorts of that, and we'll be able to create organic kind of channels. It's gotten to a place where we feel there's too much of a one side, like in advertising, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
and it's just been forced. And we don't believe this is a beneficial thing for anyone anymore. It's
Mhm.
just subject, it creates negativity and so on. So we want to be able to help create a positive environment.
I
Uh,
like the innovation in this approach, in this business model. Reimagining the industry of advertising. Sounds interesting.
right.
Um, Ori, yeah, we took a bit of a different direction in our original thinking of what we're going to be talking about, and I suggest we kind of revert back. We have an
Mhm.
overview of your experience. You're super well qualified to talk about um, business and growing businesses and helping SMEs. And I'm sure that we can talk about culture and we can take it in quite a
Right.
few directions. But let's talk about the year-end planning and what we've announced we'd be talking about. So
Right.
how do you do year-end planning, or how do you suggest SMEs do that?
Right. So this is my approach to year planning.
Yeah.
This is really just my approach. It came about after years of trying various kind of things, years of also working with investors or also working with the board, which has a different kind of thing. To me, a yearly planning is really the yearly journey. So I look at businesses as a book. I like to consider them as chapters, and I want to be able to move them from one chapter to the next. So I think I'm going to try to talk about it from that second year that we've done a yearly planning. There's a way to start, okay? But I'd like to think of it as something that you continue year of the year. Now, the reason I'm doing it is because when I approach the year, it's almost like a day that I kind of step back and I look at the year before. And I'm trying to see, what was it? I want to see, what did we want last year to be? What did we expect it to be? I know a lot of companies are looking at, let's see what we did in our goals and our objectives, okay, and in our goals, right? Mostly our goals. Did we hit our revenue? Did we hit our profit? Blah, blah, that. And I'm not saying we're not looking at it. We are. But to me, it starts actually from the top. Like, what did we want that year to be? When I go about this, I go about it for the next year. I wanna title it as a certain name, and it's almost like a title to a chapter. I want this to be I want this to be the year of marketing, or I want it to be the year of whatever, of client support, whatever. There's various ways to go about this, but it's a year that you're describing what you want and then what needs to happen in that yearly descriptive, okay? Less on the numbers. So when I go and do that, I look at the year back and saying what it did mean for me, what really happened internally and externally. You need to be able to understand what happened through the year, and you need to do that through events, things that happened that were meaningful, maybe things that also did not happen, and things that happened from outside. And in it, you would also then look at what your goals were. Did we hit the goals? Did we not hit the goals? And it would give you a little bit of a story of why, right? Because I know this is sometimes it's a black and white. You either hit them or not. But I believe for planning ahead, it really is important to understand why. And I also want it to be soft and understanding. Like, it's not that I don't want us to achieve goals. Of course I do. But I'm a person that believes that you need to be able to have success, but not at any cost. Like, so that's the person that I am. I want success, but not at all cost. I'm not willing to break my family for it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my physical health. I do not want to collapse mentally. There's not at all costs. Okay. So that's where I stand. That's probably where my approach is also to yearly planning. So once I did that and we looked at what our past year, that needs to set the stage to where we are now as a company, where we are now as individuals, where's the team, where's the outside market to now, right, look, so what does that mean for next year? So what do we want that year to be? What needs to happen in order for that to succeed? What needs to happen? There are certain kind of actions or certain things, maybe behaviors, maybe culture, maybe it's actual things. And then I go into the priorities, the overall priorities. And priorities are like areas that we want to focus on. It can't be more than 3, 4. All right. It can't be more than 3, 4. And these are the areas of priorities of the company. It could be branding that is there. It could be closing deals. It could be profitability. If this is a hard kind of thing for you, all right? And then from that, we go to goals. Now, goals always have a revenue goal. We shouldn't be afraid of revenue goals. This is not a life or death. It's not that if we're not going to hit that goal, somebody is going to throw us off the building. And we also don't need to over celebrate. Right? Like we should celebrate. Let's find time to celebrate. But I'm a person that celebrates and very quickly kind of moves on to what's next. So goals are specific ones that we want to be able to achieve. Again, not more than 4 or 5. That needs to be measurable. There can't be a question at the end of the year whether we achieved it or not. That is, you have to know, did we or did we not? And the revenue is like, did we achieve it? Did we not? And it's not about good or bad. We just needs to be very clear.
Mm-hmm. Initially, when you said year 2, you start with year 2, I kind of had the imagination that you start with the year past the year that we're planning, and you're looking back to kind of drill down what needs to be done to reach year 2 goals. This is my imagination at the beginning.
So when I meant it okay, we started the year before. But if this is the first year, then you do the same thing when it comes to looking back. You're just probably not going to have, you don't have anything written down. Mm-hmm. You haven't written down what you want the year to be. You haven't written down goals or anything like that. So you would write down whatever, because you did think about something. Like there's no way, I don't believe anyone just goes into the year just, all right, like waltz into it. There's some sort of thought of what would want, so so the idea is that you would start there and it will probably be not as great, okay? As we move along with the years, people will find how better they get at it. They get better at understanding. They get better in sticking to it. The entire idea for me of the yearly plan is to create some sort of a yellow brick road for us. Mm-hmm. It needs to keep us in check. Okay. It needs to highlight what is important and what is not important. And sometimes understanding what's not important is even more critical than what is. Yeah. Meaning I'm probably a little bit extreme in it, but when I go ahead and here's my priorities, I almost do not want to hear others start to put others. Was this in our priority? Is this what we wanted? Is this the direction? And if not, please, let's stay course. Okay, because it's important to stay course. All right. So when we do that, we have the priorities, we have the goals, we have to start to see how those are things, like what is required to get those done. Then it is really critical that once you do that, then comes and you do Q1. All right. The reason why you do Q1 and Q2 and Q3, and the reason why you also do a QBR, which is a quarterly business review. I know it takes a little bit of time, but you do that because you want to be able to break things in the middle. You do not want to do a yearly plan, go a year, and then look back in it and it's like, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do this. We didn't do this. And it's like you almost like forgot what you'd done from the first place. The entire idea is to set you on course and can keep you in check. Mm-hmm. Not to be able to limit what you do, but focus what you do. So the QBRs is really important because now you're now breaking down to smaller chunks. All right, so this is what like what does that mean for our next quarter? What would be my priority this quarter? What would be my goals? It's sort of like it gives a mini plan.
Mhm.
And I want to do it as soft as in many ways soft. I don't want it to be overwhelming. I really not want it to be scary. I want it to actually to be the exact opposite.
Yeah.
This is the time that you get rejuvenated. This is the time that you get, oh my God, let's see what we did. And let's be excited about what we want to be able to do. Let's
At
be
what
full.
point do you match it? At what point do you match it with financial goals? At what point do you match the plan?
Financial goals are always there. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm a P&L person. Um, I know some people are using, all sorts of finance kind of tools. They don't really necessarily connect it to what P&L or even understand what P&L is um, but to me, it is very important to understand what came in, what are the revenue that we generated, and how much it costs to do it, and why. And it's like how does the business kind of operate it? You look at it at financials. When you do the financials, you already have in your brain about how that business kind of operated. So you do the goals at the same time. You do also do the financials. Now, a lot of companies would go and they'll start to build models for revenue, and I'm not necessarily against models. I'm not. Um, I don't know. I sort of learned from experience that models can get you all only so far. They're models at the end of the day, meaning that you put, and it's an Excel experiment, and I know that there's thought process to it, but I learned in the past that my intuition is almost as good as a model, and
Mm. Mhm.
and the model may be a little bit kind of different, but it was sometimes to me it almost felt like a waste of time sometimes.
Yeah.
Now
Mm. I
I'm
understand
not,
what
I'm
you mean.
not, I'm not disputing models, and I'm not really against them. It just the way that I operate is a bit different. I think that if you really are connected to the numbers that you have and how the business operates, you should have a pretty good idea about what is achievable, what is not. It takes over time,
Yeah, of
but
course.
you eventually get it.
Yeah. No,
First, yeah, in China that I actually built the model, that was awful. I built something and I think we managed to get like about 20, 10% of what it was awful. It was not connected to anything. But I
well,
was young.
it's kind of hard to do budgeting for a startup when you have no historical data.
Yeah, and I was naive. It was the first time to do it. So it was, yeah, I'm gonna get 10 new clients every year. It was just it was like it wasn't even goals. These are just they was hopeful dreams, or I don't even know what it is. And sometimes it's also very hard to distinguish between goals and expectations, or I don't know, like this is hard. And it's a hard question to answer. And it also depends on the person that you are.
Mm.
For example, if you put a goal for the year, now obviously you put a goal for a reason and you want to be able to achieve it. Now, the question comes into, are you going to do everything in your possible power to achieve that goal? Or is this going to be somewhat of a shining light or guiding light into what you think you should be able to do and kind of plan accordingly? It's it's a difficult thing to navigate. I'm not sure I have the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it also depends if the goal is set by your team internally or if it's set externally by a PE firm or by the owners that maybe you're not a part of, at times. And who is actually setting the goal?
Yeah, true. So that's why I'm talking more about I'm talking in a scenario that like you're a team, you're the management team, your leadership team, and you're setting your own kind of path. Obviously, if you have investors, it's a different kind of story.
Yeah.
There are expectations. They put money behind it, and they expect something to happen, and it's hard to get away from it.
Hmm.
So how to navigate that is a whole different story.
Right. Yeah. It's
Not that
moving
I
more
can.
towards outside the SME subject and more into the corporate interests.
Some of it, yeah.
Yes, of it, yeah.
What I suggested is more of a path that you take it, and more the control is in your hands,
Yeah.
less from outside. You can still do it, even if you have investors, you can still do it.
Yeah.
I just take into consideration that you may have outside influence specifically towards the numbers. I think at the end of the day, investors couldn't care less on how you do the yearly planning as long as you're increasing the revenue and you set expectations that you meet set expectations. So they don't really care how you go about doing it.
Mhm.
It's the level of effort and the level of execution that they care about.
Mhm. So, what is the aspect of your character, or how exactly do you suggest other people that don't have exactly the same type of character? How should they do yearly planning without stressing themselves out too much? Because you mentioned I do it, more, you're still based in numbers, but you're thinking more of the soft aspects of it. So
Yeah. Mhm.
you so my
Yep.
point is, yeah, it's your personal approach. Can this be replicated to people that don't carry your character and still do it in an easy, soft manner that
Yeah.
doesn't stress them out?
I think absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm happy to be of assistance, or anyone who wants to be able to come to me at some point, just to get the framework on how to operate that framework. I think there are a few things that help, okay?
Mhm.
Over time, you get better at it. Okay,
Mm.
over time, you get better at it. The quarterly part is something that must be implemented. You have to break it down into quarters. And I wouldn't worry if you do it well, okay? Even if the quarters would be a reminder for what you wanted at the beginning of the year, at the end of the last year. Even if it's only doing that to begin with, that's good enough, okay? It's like it's a reminder. This is the direction. This is what we want. This is what we thought. This is what we were intended. Let's just set a reminder. There is something inside of businesses, right? The relationship between people. And I don't mean it in a mean way, but you sort of start to want to get people to be a little bit uncomfortable. Okay? You want the people to feel somewhat uncomfortable for you, that they wanna do more because they're a little bit uncomfortable. Hey, we promised to do this, but we didn't really yet do it. You want them to feel uncomfortable.
Challenge them a little bit.
It's a healthy relationship. You don't want them to stress all the time.
Mhm.
That's negative. Okay. Sometimes overstressing people creates the exact reverse.
Mm.
What is that tension between them, that they're nervous enough or they're not relaxed enough that they're still doing it in a positive way, is the trick, right? How do they do it in a positive energy? That's a trick, how to, and there's no right and wrong answers. I think it's a combination of things, of motivating them, of getting them things that they would be happy with. Finding out what motivates them is really key in a lot of things, and setting the environment that would do it.
Mhm.
Um, but what I said in terms of it is it can be absolutely replicated, and you can take it as deep and as shallow as you really want. The entire idea of it is that it would keep you in a path, and keep you following a path. It will get you out of the day to day, which is a destructive grind. Get you out of get you to think a little bit outside the box. Get you to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. What are the people that you want to work with? Who you not?
Mhm.
What are the things that you want to focus on? What are the things that are just a distraction?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Ori, do you have a personal method or way to keep motivated, to keep a success mindset and upbeat and to move forward?
Um, yeah, myself, that's a good question. Um, Depending on the personality. So I think me personally, I like to work with, there are certain types of people that I like to work more closely with. Um, and there's ways in there that I like to give them the responsibility or the ways for them to kind of improve or show them how they can improve. And then there's positive interaction in terms of encouragement. I've seen ways to I'm so
I
I'm
was
more
more asking about your personal development methods that you use on yourself to keep yourself positive and
okay.
upbeat.
All right. Um, I don't know.
Do you
I'm
do
not
anything
sure.
special like meditation? I mean, you do sports. You said you do
I do
basketball.
sports.
Yeah.
I like to work out.
Hmm.
I like to work out in CrossFit, even start to play pickleball, and hopefully I will not get re-injured though all the time. Um, I like I said, I get my motivation from people.
Hmm. Hmm.
That would really keep me conversations with people, interaction with people.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing them succeed, with my own team will really help myself. But I often, when I need to concentrate, I always think about one thing that I really need to do. I go outside. That's my method.
Yeah.
I need to go to a place where it's almost like I intend to go to that place, and that's where I'm doing my assignment. It would be one. I was like, just do this. And look, you need to be happy every day about things that you've done. What would be the highlight? So even if you think of like just one thing that you completed,
Hmm.
I think that's great. And for me, that really helps
Yeah.
because
To have
that
one success a day that you reach a certain goal. Fantastic. Great.
even one thing, one assignment that I
Yeah.
did, I was just really happy that I got this down. And then the other things are, and I would, if you have assignments of things to do that require your brain power, do them at the best kind of moments of your day.
Hmm. Hmm.
I also say, I also think things are important. If there are things that are important to you, like working out or taking a walk or whatever it is, or even being with spending time with your kids, don't do this as an afterthought. That means I often think people kind of confuse if you know the analogy of the big stones and small stones, right? That you have like a box and to effectively fill a box, right? You put first the big stones and only then the small stones. If you do the reverse, the big stones would not have a place, right? I think in life is very similar to that. I just often think that we are mislabeling the big stones. Uh,
Hmm.
and and for that, work is very much like that, meaning emails and kind of things like that, very much like that. The big stones are really the big things that are important to you. If being fit or physical does you well and it's important, it's a big stone.
Yeah.
You just cannot consider it as a small stone. And a small stone, the way that you consider a small stone is you would do it whenever you have time.
Hmm. Hmm.
A bit, but you can't. Then you're mislabeling what is a big stone and what is a small stone. And I think this is one of the key things of keeping you motivated is finding what your big stones are and insisting on doing it, regardless of and without all the excuses that I now have this email or this whatever
Yeah.
things that I need to complete. You would find that you would do the big stones and all the things that you said that you will be, you'll still do them.
I love this analogy, and it's a fantastic way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Ori. Anything else that you'd like to share? Although this was really the pinnacle of the conversation, I think this sums up a lot of things in life and also in business. Uh, yeah,
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed this talk. Anything else that you would like to share? How can people reach out to you?
So I'm the easiest through just LinkedIn. Please reach out to me directly. You'll find me. There's only one with my name and last name, so that's the easiest kind of to find. And I'm happy to help, talk, have conversations. I enjoy it. Gives me energy. So thank you for the conversation as well.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business, as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, visit my website at grownlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us, and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.